You guys, I am so pumped today to talk to you about a topic that you already know I'm incredibly passionate about, and hopefully you're starting to gain my passion, and that topic is flow. So I've been talking to every single guest that comes on to my show about flow, and I've been having them tell stories about their flow state experiences. And I thought it would only be appropriate that I gave you guys a description of exactly what flow is and a little bit of background on flow states and why we should care about them in the first place. So let me hop into it. A little bit of history about flow. There is a psychologist named Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. I hope I didn't butcher his name too much, but he was actually studying and trying to find out the meaning of life, right? And he really stumbled upon finding out how to sustainably keep people happy. And what he realized was these people who were the happiest were experiencing incredible amounts of something he termed as flow. And so this word flow, we can call it whatever we want. We can call it being in your zone. We can call it being in peak state. We can call it being turned on. Whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. But for the sake of just what everyone's calling it right now, we'll just keep going with flow. And so flow is so cool and so important because as entrepreneurs, we're constantly trying to step up our game and perform at the highest level possible. And through all the research that's being done on flow states, we've noticed that people who experience more flow are more productive, more resourceful, more creative, more intelligent altogether. And so they're very able to get into these states of minds that allow them to perform at the highest level possible. And so let's quickly talk about what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, again, probably butchering his name, described as unique traits or unique characteristics of someone in flow state. So being in flow state usually encompasses having clear goals. So you know what you're trying to achieve during that time, right? So if you're an athlete, maybe you're performing at a very high level looking to win a game, or if you're someone playing extreme sports, you're trying to maybe surf a wave. If you're an artist, you're trying to create a piece of art. You get where I'm coming at here. There's usually a goal in mind. Next thing, there's concentration, extreme concentration that's going on. And it's really concentration onto one laser focused thing. We're not concentrating, we're not multitasking, we're concentrating on one thing in particular. After that, we lose all sense of self-consciousness. So we're really just immersed in the action that we're taking. We're not worrying about anything else that's going on in the world. We're not worrying about how people are perceiving us. We're just at one in that moment. The next thing is we have this distorted sense of time. So sometimes seconds feel like minutes and vice versa, and time just becomes superfluous. We get so immersed in the moment that we're just constantly present and time really doesn't matter. The next thing, we usually get direct and immediate feedback when we're in flow. So every action you're taking, you're constantly able to iterate and pivot and improve your performance. The next thing, when you're in flow, your successes and failures are very apparent. So your behavior can be adjusted very easily. You're very perceptive and you have this intuitive sense of what needs to change in the moment. You also have a balance between your ability level and the challenge. And so you're never going to be doing anything that's too difficult, but you're also doing something that is difficult enough that gets you completely immersed in whatever the task at hand is. Next thing is you have a sense of personal control over whatever it is you are focusing on in that moment. So you have control over the outcome more or less, right? The next thing being the activity is intrinsically rewarding, which means that the activity in itself is enough for you, right? You don't need to get paid. You don't need any other motivation. You just love what you're doing. And that's really the key to getting to flow, is doing stuff that you really love to do. So it really feels effortless, more or less. The next thing, you have a lack of awareness of what your bodily needs are. So you're not hungry, you don't have to go to the bathroom, you're not worrying about pain or anything like that. You're completely immersed. So your bodily needs become something that you don't even think about. And finally, You're completely absorbed in a laser focused awareness of what's going on in the activity itself. That is one of the biggest things, right? You're completely immersed in this. And so you just heard me go through all of these things that represent flow. And there's two different types of flow. We have like this micro flow where you experience just a couple types of these, and it maybe isn't a complete immersion. And then you have macro flow where every single one of those things I just described are a part of your experience. And when we have macro flow, we're able to do things that are incredible, things that have never been done before. We're able to pull from like this collective consciousness and start programming ourselves to act unconsciously, where we don't have to think about the next step. It just flows through us. And that is flow in itself, right? And the reason why this matters so much is, as I told you before, some of the top performers in the world, athletes, entrepreneurs, all get into these flow states and perform incredibly well. And if we can start to program ourselves to constantly get into these flow states, we'll realize that the more flow we engage in, the easier it is to get back into more flow states. So the more flow we have, the more flow we have. These are not my words. This is a quote from Steven Kotler. And he is one of the men who is on the peak of finding out exactly what the flow genome is. And he outlines this in his book, The Rise of Superman. Would definitely check that one out. So this whole world is exploding around flow and understanding what our minds are really capable of. Because we really understand more or less like the physical body. We understand a lot of like what we can do with our physical body as far as peak performance. But the mind, the brain, we're just tapping into this. There's so much untapped resources in our mind we're just understanding now. And flow is one of the big things right now we're realizing. That like flow is, of course, awesome for like performing well, but also it has high correlations with being happy. No one gets into a flow state and is depressed. It's really impossible. There's not like a happy and a sad flow state. There's just the happy flow state. And that's why I think it's so beautiful. And I really try to get people to do everything they can to experience as much of this in their life as possible. Because if you're living a life of flow, you're able to live a happy and fulfilled life. So when I talk about a life of flow, there's really three pillars that I believe make up a life of flow. I believe that first you want to gain physical mastery, so over your body, creating the body you want and having it perform at high levels of being able to have tons of energy and just creating the exact physique you want. I think that's a big part of flow. I think that's like the foundation for flow, in my opinion. And of course, you can get into flow without mastering your body, but I believe it makes it a lot easier. The second thing being emotional state management. So really mastering your emotions and gaining that strong emotional fitness. And so learning how to, at any point in time, create whatever emotion you want, which we know is possible. I've talked to you guys about this before, but really focusing on being in our most resourceful, high energy, happy, focused states of mind. So that's a second pillar. The third one being really gaining mental mastery. And that's where we start to really dig into finding every way possible to get ourselves locked into these flow states, into this zone we've been talking about. And this happens through learning how to do different types of meditation and doing things like visualization and incantation, so very powerful emotional affirmations. There's a lot more that goes into it. And really just for this episode, I want to talk to you guys about what flow is. I'm not necessarily going to go deep into telling you every way you can get into it, but I think just giving you a nice foundation for understanding what it is and why it's so important is very important. And that's the reason why I created this episode. And so to sum it up, flow is just that feeling we have, right? Where we're completely immersed in the moment. We are present beyond belief. Only thing that exists is what's going on in that moment. We are completely carefree when it comes to time. Time does not matter to us at all. And time really seems superfluous when you're in the moment because you are present. When you're present, time has no bearing in your life. And finally, you're able to perform at a level of mastery where your unconscious is really turned on and allowing you to perform at a higher level than you ever have before because you don't have that conscious mind, that beta mind, beta brainwaves going, well, I don't know if we should do this. Instead, it's just like automatic. Your unconscious mind is on and it's just like, yes, we should do this, 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 and this. And it's just one foot after another. And that's the beauty of these flow states, is you get to really take advantage of this genius that we all have. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of me explaining what flow is. If you have any questions at all, please shoot me an email, brandon@entrepreneurfitness.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, as well as the other ones, please do not hesitate to give us a nice 5-star review. I'm going to be constantly bringing on more and more guests. They're going to be breaking down flow with us, teaching us everything we need to gain that physical, mental, and emotional mastery. Everyone from nutritionists to psychologists to people in the field of exercise physiology to neuroscientists. So I'm going to keep bringing these people on, and we're going to keep exploring and really expanding our minds in this world of what is flow and what is our peak potential. So it's a lot of fun. So keep on listening in, and I'm going to keep teaching you guys. I'm going to keep learning myself, and it's going to be a very fun adventure. And if you guys are interested in learning exactly how to live a life in flow, I'm going to be launching a program called the Entrepreneur Fitness Flow State Program. And this program is going to give you 12 weeks of mastery over your mental, emotional, physical body. And I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes. So you guys should definitely check that out. And you can go ahead and sign up for that. And I will let you know when it's ready and we'll be launched and rolling, baby. We're going to create an awesome community. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and go out there and live a life in flow.